And we continue this celebration of National Heritage Day today with a man who's extremely passionate about South African history. He's written 2 books about these in a novel-esque kind of way. His name is Mr. Robin Binckes, and his latest book, The Great Trek Uncut, is now out for sale. It's an incredible book. Get your hands into it, sink your teeth into it. How are you, sir? Great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Fantastic. Now, the title, of course, very striking, The Great Trek Uncut. A very specific reason why you decided to call it that. Tell me why.
Well, in the past, the Great Trek has always been a fairly, I think, boring and set pattern, one-dimensional characters. And what I tried to show in this book, it's a book of history, but we've written it in a way that hopefully people will find entertaining,
yes,
as well as educational. Mm-hmm. So I've tried to do it as a story, and we've included a number of facts, for example, that have not been disclosed before in terms of not only the Great Trek, but the early history of this country.
Yeah, and this comes off the back of your first book, Canvas Under the Sky, which was exposed to much controversy, and you were threatened to be burned at the stake for this.
Yes, I call it the South African version of 50 Shades of Grey. Now, that should immediately boost the sales of Canvas Under the Sky.
I think it surely did.
No, joking aside, I wish I'd written 50 Shades of Grey. Of course, that lady doesn't need to write again in her life. But it wasn't well received by the extreme right wing of the Afrikaans people. They felt that it was an affront in many instances. Yeah. They had a burning of the book.
Yeah. Is it because, I mean, if you take the thread from Canvas Under the Sky to Great Trek Uncut, is that you really give life to these characters which were previously portrayed as just historical figures that reach certain milestones for certain nations, but instead you've taken them and you've given them words, you've given them conversation, you've given them interaction with the environment and with other people to such an extent where you actually think, but wow, these were actually real people.
Well, they were very real people, and that was the criticism that I felt could be levelled at the previous Trek books, if you like. And that's what we've tried to do, is to flesh them out and to show them as people with passions and with feelings, emotions, and with failings as well. They weren't all good. Mm-hmm. There was some bad as well. And as I wrote this book, so the characters actually developed themselves. Great names like Maritz, for example, and Pretorius. Incidentally, today, a very sad day, it's the day after 175 years ago yesterday, Gerard Maritz, one of the leaders of the Trek, passed away at the age of 41. Can you believe it?
Yeah. He
died of a thing called dropsy.
Wow.
And these were the hardships that these people went through. It's an unbelievable story. And
yes.
That was never portrayed. It became a boring kind of story, but it is a story of almost, if it was written as a novel, unbelievable fortitude, courage, bravery and endurance.
I love this that you said in the beginning, that when you quoted an anonymous source, where you said, until the lions are taught to write, history will always be written by the hunters. Now, you just alluded to that now, where you say there are many facts about this story, the Great Trek, that we were previously not exposed to. Tell me about some of those that you discovered.
Well, one of the things, for example, was that I discovered some research that had been done from the Zulu perspective, and that was that when Retief visited Dingaan, he actually camped on the site of a sacred tree where Dingaan's father was buried. Now, it was totally without knowledge, of course, by Retief and his men, and it shows you how not understanding the cultures and the backgrounds of the people, how things can go wrong.
Yeah.
And that was one of the many reasons given in the Zulu interpretation of what happened with the killing of Retief, is that he had offended the Zulu nation.
Wow. Quickly, succinctly summarize, what would you like South Africans to gain from reading this book?
A great pride in where they come from. And it's not just the Afrikaner. What I would like South Africans to get from this book is that this book and the story of the Great Trek affects every single group of South African, irrespective of colour, language, race, creed, that was in the country at that point in time. Fantastic. So I would, whoever reads it, I would like them to feel, I'm proud of being South African.
And definitely engage in conversation, and this book will surely stir that up. So thank you very much, much appreciated.
Thank you.
The Great Trek Uncut, we are giving away 5 copies of the book. All you need to do is SMS the keyword book, including your name and city, to 33728. You can also follow Mr. Binks at Rob Binks on Twitter for your daily South African history update. We'll be back after these.